Since the war began, thousands upon thousands of fighters and bombers have clashed in the skies over Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. It's a crucible of blazing guns, twisted metal, and burning fuel, in which a pilot's lifespan can often be measured in a matter of weeks or even days. But some pilots thrive in this environment and climb to the top of their craft. Through their skill and bravery, and often with a bit of help from fate, the fighter races of this war become legends. I'm Indy Neidell, and welcome to a World War II special on Allied flying aces. In the Great War, the French first coined the term flying ace for any pilot who scored at least 5 victories. Armies on all sides picked this up and ran with it because the stories of their heroic pilots caught the public imagination and made for great propaganda. Some of the most famous names from the Great War were fighter aces, men like the Red Baron or Eddie Rickenbacker, Georges Guynemer or Billy Bishop. But now there are new names to add to the list. Today, we're going to look at some of the Allied aces. We'll do the Axis later. And speaking of capturing the imagination, this extra special is sponsored by CuriosityStream. CuriosityStream is the best place to watch documentaries about science, history, technology, nature, travel, and much, much more. And this special today would not exist without them. Something to definitely check out there is MIA, Hunt for a World War II Plane. It's a pretty cool story, actually. See, after doing years of research, 2 men go hacking through the jungles of Burma to find a downed World War II plane. And one is ex-CIA and the other ex-FBI. I mean, what more could you want? Well, there is loads more. CuriosityStream has exclusive stuff, award-winning films, and shows you can't watch anywhere else, plus the deepest collection of the best documentaries from around the world, deeper than any other streaming service out there. They add new shows every week, and right now you can save 25% by using our promo code World War II or by clicking the link below. I can hear some of you saying, wait, you guys don't do sponsorships? No, we do not. Not for our regular content, our regular series, and our regular specials. But we were not planning on making this video, so it would not have been created without CuriosityStream sponsoring it. Anyhow, I'll set us down after the Battle of Britain, and no one is more fascinated than the British public with their RAF heroes. There are 2 contenders for the title of top RAF ace. The first is a South African pilot named Marmaduke Thomas Sinjin Patel. It might be St. John, but usually it's Sinjin when it's written out like that, but you'll let me know in the comments. Better known as Pat, he started his war flying the Gloucester Gladiator biplane for No. 80 Squadron. Stationed in Egypt and then Greece, by February 1941, he had 15 victories. By then, though, the Gladiator was pretty obsolete, so Pat and his squadron started flying the Hawker Hurricane. On his first day behind the controls, Pat took down an Italian Fiat G50 fighter. He swooped down from above, quickly lined up the target, and hit it with a quick burst from the Hurricane's 8 machine guns. This is typical of Pat's fighting style, which his colleagues attribute to his excellent eyesight and judgment. Shooting down an enemy like that, before he's even aware of you, is the goal, as stated by the Red Baron himself. You do not want to be dragged into a risky dogfight. In March 1941, Pat was promoted to squadron leader of No. 33 Squadron in Athens. On missions over Greece, Yugoslavia, and Albania, he took down Messerschmitts, Dorniers, and Heinkels. His story comes to an end, though, as the British withdraw from Greece. On April 20, 1941, he takes off to defend shipping in Piraeus Harbor in Athens against Junkers dive bombers. His flight of 15 Hurricanes is outnumbered, and one of his comrades, Flight Lieutenant Woodward, will recall the flight. We climbed into a swarm of Ju-88s, protected by masses of Messerschmitt 110s. We were overwhelmed. I recall shooting down a 110 off Patel's tail. Shortly afterwards, Patel got a confirmed Ju-88 or Bf-110. Subsequently, I lost contact with him. Pat did get a Bf-110, and this brought him to 35 victories with the Hurricane and 50 in total. But it turns out to be his last. He gets separated from his comrades, so no one knows exactly how he dies, but we can be pretty certain that it is a Bf-110 fighter that shoots him down. See, another pilot arrives on the scene, and he will recall Pat's Hurricane diving towards the sea, chased by 2 Bf-110s with flames lapping at his cockpit and with Pat slumped over the controls. But why can't we say for sure that he is the top RAF ace? Well, the problem is the lack of official records confirming his victories with the Hurricane. The British destroy most of those when they evacuate Greece. And unfortunately for Pat's legacy, there is someone whose victories are better documented. That would be James Edgar Johnson, better known as Johnny. Johnny cuts his teeth with flying fighter sweeps and escorting bombers over northern France in 1941 and 42. In one of these missions, on August 9, 1941, Johnny and his air wing run into a force of 70 Bf-109s. Outnumbered, but with surprise on their side, the RAF men attack from above, and Johnny quickly scores a victory. After the war, he will describe the chaos of the fight. It seemed to me the biggest danger was a collision rather than being shot down. That's how close we all were. It was awful. All you could think about was surviving, getting out of that massive aircraft. Johnny picks up ace status by the end of September, along with a Distinguished Flying Cross. He spends the winter of 1941 training, and after promotion to squad leader, gets back to offensive operations in April 1942. Then in spring 43, takes over as wing commander of the Royal Canadian Air Force Wing based at Kenley. Now that he's in charge of an entire wing, he can call the shots about tactics. He thinks the RAF needs to learn from the enemy. He admires the German standard fighter formation called the Schwarm, pioneered by German ace Werner Mulders after his experiences in the Spanish Civil War. Johnny introduces his men to a version of the Schwarm called the Finger Four. In this, each squadron of 12 planes is divided into sets of 4, which are further divided into pairs. These fours fly in a fairly loose formation, and they have better situational awareness because the lead aircraft in each pair watches for enemies while the wingman provides cover. This gives more eyes scanning the skies. Then, when they make contact, the pilots split off in their pairs and fight separately. Johnny also gets his hands on some new hardware. The Spitfire Mark IX has a more powerful engine than previous models, and it's designed to combat the Luftwaffe's Focke-Wulf FW-190. Over the spring and summer of 1943, Johnny puts the new plane and the new tactics to good use, taking down 11 FW-190s, bringing his total to 20 victories by the end of August. Soon, he'll be taking part in the invasion of Western Europe. And Johnny will notch up another 14 confirmed victories before the end of the war, bringing his total to 34. That is still short of Pat's total, but because of the reliability of Johnny's figures, because he will survive the war, and perhaps because he's British rather than South African, Johnny will become far better known than Pat. There's little doubt over who is top scorer in the United States. Richard Ira Bong will score 40 victories flying the twin-engine P-38 Lightning for the USAAF. He starts off with the 9th Fighter Squadron, the Flying Knights, but he draws first blood while temporarily assigned to 39th Fighter Squadron out of Port Moresby, New Guinea. On December 27, 1942, during the Battle of Bunagona, Dick Bong takes down a Mitsubishi A6M0 and a Nakajima Ki-43 Oscar. After returning to 9th Fighter Squadron, he cements his status as an ace by shooting down 3 Oscars over Leh in January and February 1943. He claims 4 more Japanese fighters on July 26, bringing his tally to 16. For that, he is awarded the Distinguished Service Cross. The secret of his success seems quite simple, similar to Pat's actually. See, Bong says that his gunnery is pretty poor, so he gets as close as possible to his enemies before opening fire. Sometimes it's a bit too close for comfort. In one case, he's hit by the flaming wreckage of his victim. In November and December 1943, Bong takes a break from this and goes home on leave to Wisconsin. There he meets and falls in love with Marjorie Vattendahl. When he returns to the Pacific in January 44, he names his P-38 Marge and puts a picture of her on its fuselage. It's not unusual for men to decorate their planes with pictures of women, but more often these are of a more erotic fashion. Anna covered this sort of thing in our video on the pinups of World War II, but Bong isn't a fan of that. He explained that his girlfriend looks swell and a hell of a lot better than those naked women. He writes to Marge that she is the most sought-after girl in the South Pacific. Back in the States, the real Marge is shot at by the cameras of journalists eager for a scoop about this all-American love story. Meanwhile, in the South Pacific, Bong's guns blaze away into 1944. Tonys, Oscars, Sallys, Zeros, all of them fall victim to the American ace. Earlier this month, in one of our weekly episodes, I mentioned that Pappy Boyington of the Marines had topped World War I ace Eddie Rickenbacker with his 27th plane shot down as U.S. Ace of Aces. Well, Boyington is a Japanese POW now, and on April 12th, Bong will pull into the lead and score his 28th victory to take over the title. In December, Bong will reach his final tally of 40 victories and be awarded the Medal of Honor. But in August 1945, he will die while testing the first American jet fighter used in combat, the Lockheed P-80. That brings us to the last of the United Nations Alliance Big Three. The top-scoring Soviet ace will be Ivan Kozhedub. Like Johnny and Bong, he starts flying operationally later in the war, starting off as a flying instructor in Chuhuiv in Ukraine. When the Germans invade in June 1941, he and his school evacuate to Shymkent in Kazakhstan. Kozhedub's career follows the rebuilding of the Red Air Force. He takes up a combat role in November 1942 with the 240th Fighter Aviation Regiment and flies one of the Soviet Union's most modern fighters, the Lavochkin La-5. This new machine can challenge German planes like the Bf-109 and Fw-190. But even so, Kozhedub is nearly shot down in an ambush by some Bf-110s. He has more success at the Battle of Kursk in the summer of 1943. His first victory is here and is a Ju-87, which he shoots down on July 6th. Here's how he will describe it in an interview after the war. I chose a victim and came in quite close to it. The main thing was to fire in time. Everything happened in a twinkling. It was only on the ground among my friends that I recall the details of this battle. The victory belonged to those who knew their planes and weapons inside out. By October, he's racked up 20 victories. In November, he's awarded Hero of the Soviet Union, and his count is 30. He will continue blasting his way through Axis aircraft as the Soviets drive westward. By war's end, he will have at least 60 victories. This makes him not just the top Soviet fighter pilot, but the top Allied pilot. Just as a teaser for a future special, there are literally dozens of Axis aces with more victories than this, including like 15 with over 200 victories. So part 2 of this, if and when we can do it, will be messy. Why do these guys fascinate us so much? I guess it's the fusion of human brilliance with the power of the most advanced machines on Earth. They also really highlight the development of air power in this war, as the planes become ever more advanced. Well, as everything becomes ever more advanced. But these guys use the technology as famous individuals to simply use it better, to be better, to kill better than the enemy. That makes them the stars. That makes them legends. Thanks again to CuriosityStream for helping us to bring out this special episode on top of our regular content. If you want to see what they have to offer, click the link below or go to curiositystream.com/World War II and save 25% right now. As for, no, I won't see you next time just yet. You can also check out that episode of Anna's about the pinups right here. Now, I'll see you next time.